The Sacred Commandments of the Adeptus Astartes. 1. Thou shalt not refer to the Adeptus Sororitas as bolter bitches, nor shalt thou go anywhere near our sisters during the time of the Red Rage, lest thou wishes to be the first human to enter orbit without the aid of a shuttle. 2. Orcs are not cute. 3. Thou shalt not make jokes about the Imperial Guard's weapons. 4. Thou shalt not replace the librarian's staff with a magic wand. 5. Thou shalt not tip the Terminators over during battle. 6. Thou shalt not do Spock impressions around Eldar. 7. C-3PO is not a Necron ambassador. 8. You shall not dare others to eat squigs. 9. No, you cannot take the Titan for a spin. 10. Thou shalt not use thy multi-melters to light campfires. In a similar manner, thou shalt not use the Terminator Captain's chain fist to open tins of baked beans. 11. Thou shalt not bribe the Inquisitor to bring down Exterminatus on your ex-wife. 12. Thou shalt not refer to the Rhino transports as pimp wagons, nor shalt thou use the phrase, if the Rhino be rockin', don't come a-knockin'. 13. The Chapter Master is not a drag. 14. Thou shalt not use power saws to cut your food. 15. Thou shalt not ask a sister if you might donate some of your own gene seed. 16. Thou shalt not throw soap at nurglings. A. No matter how effective it is still wrong to do it. 17. Thou shalt not put a kick me sign on the golden throne. 18. Thou shalt not refer to the machine spirit as cruise control. 19. Thou shalt not stick a honk if you think I'm sexy sticker on the Sisters Rhino. 20. Thou shalt not honk if thy sees a sticker saying honk if you think I'm sexy on a Sisters Rhino. 21. Thou shalt not unplug the golden throne just for laughs. 22. Thou shalt not make the Emperor read your palms or call upon him as Miss Cleo. 23. Virus bombs are not fun in a box. 24. Shooting one of your own men who looks at you funny does not count as an enemy casualty. 25. Thou shalt not clog the las cannon tubes just to see what happens. 26. Thou shalt not spread cooking oil in front of a dreadnought. 27. Thou shalt not attempt to shake the chaplain's hand while wearing a power fist. 28. Putting sand inside the Terminator's armor is not funny. 29. Thou shalt not refer to the standard of fortitude as a walking stick. 30. Thou shalt not refer to the bolt pistol as a novelty cigarette lighter. 31. The Earthshaker cannon is not a hat stand, nor is the Sentinel a standard lamp. 32. Thou shalt not use land raiders to play chicken with Imperial Guard chimeras. 33. Thou shalt not put a purge me sign on the back of the chaplain's armor. 34. Thou shalt not compliment the Dark Eldar by calling him kinky. 35. Thou shalt not let an orc be the designated driver. 36. Thou shalt not replace the holy unguents for the machine spirit with grain alcohol. 37. Thou shalt not invite a banshee to karaoke. 38. Thou shalt not replace the O2 units on the commander's power armor with laughing gas. 39. Thou shalt not train a Hormagaunt to be a watchdog. 40. Thou shalt not take old One-Eye out of context. He's in my artificer armor. Duh. 41. Thou shalt not call Dark Angels hippie altar boys. 42. Thou shalt not taunt an Eldar. Gee, didn't these used to shoot further? 43. thou shalt not refer to the Golden Throne as the nicest commode in the galaxy. 44. Thou shalt not attempt to offer a Carnifex a breath mint. 45. Thou shalt not throw a warp beast a dog biscuit. 46. Thou shalt not hope for mud wrestling during a Witch Sisters battle. 47. Thou shalt not ask a warlock what he wears under his robe. 48. Thou shalt not tease an inquisitor with, "Look, sir, heretics!" 49. Thou shalt not play whack-a-mole with those little Jawa wannabe Dark Angel things. Tangent. 50. Thou shalt not wear oven mitts when issued a plasma gun. 51. Thou shalt not take the rhino to procure monkish ale before filling out his most holy acquisitions forms. 52. Thou shalt not ask the librarian if he has records concerning Uranus. 53. Thou shalt not refer to the flamer as a novelty toaster. 54. Thou shalt not ask the apothecary to guess what you have eaten by looking at your tongue. 55. Thou shalt not remove the motors from a Terminator's armor during battle. 56. Thou shalt not point and laugh saying, "Look, somebody missed the toilet," when battling snotlings. 57. Thou shalt not break wind in the presence of the Emperor, unless properly addressed to do so. 58. Eldar helmets may not be used as hole punches. 59. Thou shalt not refer to the daily rituals as psychological warfare, nor shalt thou refer to the Index Astartes as the Book of Grudges. 60. Thou shalt not say, "Will someone please tell the Emperor to crap or get off the throne?" 61. Thou shalt not petition his most holy administration to make Inquisition an Olympic sport. 62. Thou shalt not instigate a "my Primarch could beat up your Primarch" debate. 63. Thou shalt not use heavy breathing and "I am your father" as a war cry when wielding a power sword and entering an assault. 64. Thou shalt not affect a Transylvanian accent around the Blood Angels. 65. No hair pulling when enjoying brotherly contests with space wolves. 66. Duct taping a flamer to your bolt gun does not count as a combi weapon, and painting it pretty won't make it master crafted. 67. Thou shalt not punt grots for pleasure. 68. Thou shalt not shout "Thongs for the Thong God" in front of the Dark Eldar, lest thou wish to learn the true meaning of pain. 69. Thou shalt not debate the protective merits of purple spandex with the Dark Eldar. 70. Thou shalt not write theatre criticism and charge his most holy treasury to mail it to the Harlequin. 71. Power armor never makes a sister look fat. 72. Thou shalt not laugh maniacally when flaming the non-believers. 73. Thou shalt not use thunderhammers to play croquet. 74. Thou shalt not start rounds of "you might be a Catan if" while imbibing strong monkish ale. 75. Thou shalt not refer to thine brethren, whom the Emperor has dictated be armed with an incendiary weapon, as a flamer constantly, for this has been proven to lower morale and cause strife within his most holy showering facilities. 76. Thou shalt not affect an Austrian accent around the Necrons. 77. Thou shalt not ask Rough Riders if you can pet their ponies. 78. Thou shalt not stray from the Adeptus Mechanicus' directive towards ornamentation of rhinos, specifically no aluminium sport rims, neon, extraneous exhaust pipes, or fuzzy dice. 79. Thou shalt not attempt to challenge the Eldar to games of Counter-Strike. 80. Thou shalt not in any way, shape or form take the land speeder joyriding. 81. Remember, shining lasguns in the guard's eyes is wrong. 82. Thou shalt not pretend to have been possessed by a demon. 83. Thou shalt not call the sacred plasma gunners of the Imperial Guard fizzbusters. 84. Yes, it will be noticed if you borrow the Chapter Master's equipment. 85. Thou shalt not use supported warhounds to play ball with Imperial Guard sentinels. 86. It is not cool to feed snotlings copious amounts of narcotics. 87. It is not funny to dress up as a bloodletter and jump out in front of the chapter master. 88. Replacing a brother's ammunition with blanks is not funny. 89. Wiffle bats are not approved hand weapons. 90. Playing naughty movies in your power armor's auto-sensors is not sanctioned by the Adeptus Astartes. 91. Thou shalt not teleport into the sisters' showering facilities. 92. Thou shalt not taunt our revered dreadnought brethren by tapping on their window and saying, "Anyone in there?" 93. Thou shalt not commandeer drop pods to go for pizza. 94. Thou shalt not refer to the Emperor's champion as that brown noser. 95. Nuking from orbit is not doctrinally feasible for removal of annoying insects unless they be tyrannids. 96. Thou shalt not tickle the fallen to press for confession and redemption. 97. Thou shalt not follow a librarian around thinking, "Can you hear me now?" repetitively in an attempt to drive him insane. 98. Thou shalt not refer to the Wolfen as "damn dirty apes." 99. Thou shalt not use whirlwinds to put on fireworks displays. 100. Thou shalt not ask the Dark Angels if they can keep a secret. 101. Thou shalt not do Scooby-Doo impressions when speaking to the Space Wolves. 102. Thou shalt not tell the Salamanders, "Sorry about the multi-melter thing." 103. Thou shalt not ask directions from the Wolfen. 104. Thou shalt not ask Berserkers for an axe. 105. Thou shalt not do donuts in a rhino, unless thou wishes to clean the passenger's vomit from the floor, as donuts make passengers dizzy. 106. Thou shalt not write "biggest bitch on the battlefield" on the side of Land Raider, even if it is true. 107. Thou shalt not take the rhino out on Saturdays to impress the girls. 108. Tyranids are not cute. 109. Thou shalt not use lasguns as laser sights for thy bolters. 110. Just because you're fighting Necrons, it doesn't mean your standard equipment is a Skaven and a tin opener. 111. Thou shalt not throw snowballs at Salamander Space Marines while yelling, "Think fast!" 112. Thou shalt not ask Orc prisoners why the red ones go faster. 113. Thou shalt not attempt to drown out noise marines with ye old rave music. 114. Never ask a dreadnought, "How old are you?" 115. Thou shalt not use the golden throne as a microwave. 116. Thou shalt not wear a dress in the presence of the Dark Angels. 117. Thou shalt not wear fake fangs in the presence of the Space Wolves. 118. Thou shalt not ask a Space Wolf if he wants a biscuit. 119. Thou shalt not eat another Marine's paste. 120. Thou shalt not trip a Dark Angel in front of an Interrogator Chaplain. 121. Thou shalt not trip an Interrogator Chaplain. 122. Thou shalt not fill Demolisher shells with lots of flowers. 123. Scouts are not target practice. 124. Thou shalt not replace the Chapter Master's power sword with a plastic sword. 125. It is not funny to put an "Eat Me" sign on the librarian's back prior to a Tyranid attack. 126. Thou shalt not refer to the dreadnought as Grandad, nor shalt thou hang a "I told you I was sick" sign from it. 127. Thou shalt not play peekaboo with the machine spirit. 128. Thou shalt not unscrew your battle brethren's leg plates. 129. It is not funny to play ring toss with orcs' tusks. 130. When faced by the Inquisition, don't laugh. 131. Necrons are not cans. 132. Thou shalt not eat prunes before a battle. 133. Thou shalt not refer to the company Tech Marine as Scotty. 134. Thou shalt not challenge the Terminator Company to a game of Twister. 135. Thou shalt not refer to Ripper Swarms as cute. 136. Thou shalt not refer to Katachan jungle fighters as tree-hugging hippies. 137. Thou shalt not suggest the Eldar live long and prosper. 138. Thou shalt not tell a space wolf it smells as if something crawled up and died in their mouth. 139. Thou shalt not replace the space wolf's store of tuna with cans of puppy chow. 140. Thou shalt not use Imperial Guardsmen as sticks or playing fetch with a hive tyrant. 141. Thou shalt not use flame falcons to toast thy marshmallows. 142. Thou shalt not ask an Inquisitor's Cyber Eagle, does Polly want a cracker? 143. Thou shalt not ask the Lamenters, are you feeling lucky, punk? Well, are ya? 144. Dating the veteran sergeant is the exclusive privilege of the heavy weapon trooper. 145. Thou shalt not ask the Eldar females if they are interested in a hand-portable vibro cannon. 146. Thou shalt not strut around Imperial Guardsmen bragging about how well equipped you are. 147. Thou shalt not ask the Thousand Sons if they are that slow on purpose. 148. Thou shalt not taunt the Imperial Guard with threats of utilizing a las cannon upon their posteriors in an unnatural fashion. 149. Thou shalt never, under any circumstances, interrupt a navigator's concentration during warp travel to ask him if you are there yet. 150. Thou shalt not challenge Karandraz the Shadow Hunter to an arm wrestling match. 151. Thou shalt not refer to Eldar swooping hawk grenades as bird droppings, nor shalt thou taunt them by using a mortar to pet them with birdseed. 152. Thou shalt not use the Emperor's Children, Iron Halo, to play horseshoes in thy free time. 153. Thou shalt not use the chapter standard to dry thy undergarments upon. 154. Thou shalt never take the Steve Irwin approach to Tyranids. If they do not respond to external stimuli, do not attempt to poke it with a stick. 155. Thou shalt not consider it funny to replace the smoke canisters in your chapter's Land Raiders smoke launchers with narcotic substances. 156. He who takes advantage of the Emperor's paralysis by painting his fingernails will be summarily executed. 157. Shoulder pads are not to be removed for use as ice cream scoops. 158. Thou shalt not replace our honoured brother Terminator Captain Stormbolter with a Vulcan Megabolter, nor shalt thou feign surprise at his inability to lift it. 159. Thou shalt not distract a librarian while he attempts to cast Smite, else thou shalt be forced to clean the inside of his helmet. 160. Thou shalt not replace a Thunderhawk's firebase supplies with bouncy castles. 161. Thou shalt not burn our captain's robe on a cold night. 162. Thou shalt not replace the apothecary's reductor with a syringe. 163. Undoing the straps between the brother and his jump pack is not funny. 164. Thou shalt not utilize the Techmarine Signum for engaging in long and sexy chit-chat with battle sisters. 165. Thou shalt not replace the Grimoire of True Names with Demon Hunting for Dummies. 166. Thou shalt not put thine Emperor-gifted gene seed into the beverage of your fellow battle brothers. 167. Thou shalt not duct tape over the emergency venting on the most holy plasma pistol of the Chapter Master. 168. Thou shalt not make your mum jokes in the presence of the Adeptus Sororitas. 169. Thou shalt not unscrew the bolts on thine brother's greaves in order to pants him. 170. Thou shalt not use thine holy melter gun as an arc welder. 171. Thou shalt not play pin the tail on the dreadnought. 172. Thou shalt never say, "You can't handle the truth," to a dark angel. 173. Thou shalt not use bug spray on Tyranids. It won't work, it only distracts. 174. Thou shalt not name a salamander dreadnought the Hulk. 176. Never mix up Core Marines with Blood Angels. 177. Do not play golf with Mortarion. He uses Nurglings to move the ball. 178. Never play American football with a Bloodthirster. 179. Thou shalt never throw a stick at Space Wolves and command them to fetch. 180. Thou shalt not challenge Guardsmen to arm wrestling whilst thou is wearing a Power Fist. 181. Thou shalt not rent advertising space on thin banners. 182. Thou shalt not hurt Cipher. 183. Thou shalt not question Commandment 182. 184. Thou shalt not be turned on by anything related to Slaanesh. 185. Thou shalt not refer to demonettes as booby demons. 186. Thou shalt not glue thy Land Raider assault doors shut. 187. Thou shalt not mock exalted members of thy chapter for not having the enemy's permission to fight. 188. If thou is worth 300 points, thou must kill 300 points before being allowed to die. 189. Thou shalt use unleaded gas only for thy Land Raider. 190. Thou shalt not use servo skulls as baseballs. 191. Thou shalt not laugh at thy brethren whom are from 1st or 2nd edition. 192. Thou shalt not compare commissars to Nazis. 193. By order of the Inquisition. There is no such thing as the Inquisition. Questioning this will have thou deemed heretic by the Inquisition. 194. Thou shalt not complain to thy force commanders in coming months when thou cannot attack the enemy immediately following exiting rhinos. 195. If thou art members of the Black Templar, then thou must not whine that the Emperor's Children has the your only iron halo. 196. Thou shalt not install hydraulics on thy rhino. 197. Thou shalt not question the decoration of the chapter fortress. If skulls with wings are good enough for him on Terra, they are good enough for you. 198. Thou shalt not strap lawn furniture to jump packs in an attempt to recreate 1st edition land speeders. 199. Thou shalt not complain about no longer having jet bikes. 200. Thou shalt not confuse Guardsmen by shouting, OMG! Zerg Rush! 201. Thou shalt not point out there is no 175th commandment. 202. Thou shalt not give members of thy biker squad thunderhammers and grots so they may play polo. 203. Thou shalt never use lasguns as flashlights during a night fight. 204. Thou shalt not take the Emperor's teeth in vain. 205. Thou shalt not comment on the odd shape of the Inquisitor's head. 206. Thou shalt not do wheelies or donuts on your bike. 207. Thou shalt not have a kegger on the eve of battle, thus making your cells less effective in the morning. 208. Thou shalt not refer to the Almighty Emperor as the righteous dead dude. 209. Thou shalt not check to see if your bolt pistol is loaded by looking down the barrel. 210. Thou shalt not go on panty raids into Sister of Battle monasteries. 211. Thou shalt not use thy scope for anything outside of battle. Anyone caught using them to spy out life mates shall lose privileges. 212. Thou shalt not sell thy extra organs on the black market. 213. Though it is entertaining, thou shalt not wave a fly swatter near the Tyranid fleets. 214. Thou shalt not use thine chainsword as a back scratcher. 215. Thou shalt not use thine bolt pistol as a Q-tip. 216. Thou shalt not attempt to imitate heathen noise marines with heavy metal or death metal through thine comm speakers. 217. Although tempting, do not attempt to give a Tau a high five. 218. Thou shalt not laugh at how small Imperial Guardsmen are. 219. Thou shalt not bend to the will of nerds playing war games and act upon your own free will. 220. Thou shalt not transmit images of unclothed sisters to the Ashtapaths. 221. Thou shalt not advertise on thine armor. 222. Thou shalt not wave fake skulls at the Berserkers. 223. Thou shalt not wave a red flag near a Chaos Dreadnought. 224. Thou shalt guard thy bolter when camping with Imperial Guard. 225. Thou shalt not sniff warp fumes. 226. Thou shalt not use Bug Bomb against the Nids. 227. Thou shalt not play internet games with Tzeentch. 228. Thou shalt not email the Emperor. 229. Thou shalt not email the Emperor spam. 230. Thou should beware of thy lictor behind cardboard bushes. 231. Terminators and glue do not mix. 232. Thou shalt not spray paint thy armor to make it look cool. 234. Thou shalt not have water gun fights with lasguns. The guard needs them. 231. Thou shalt not juggle power weapons. 236. Thou shalt not hide video links in the Sisters of Battle's monastery. 237. Grenades are not water balloons. 238. Thou shalt not use insect repellent against Tyranids. 239. Thou shalt not use water guns against Necrons. 240. Thou shalt not piss on the Iron Halo. 241. Demons are not your friends. 242. Barney the dinosaur is not your friend. 243. Barney is a heretic. 244. Barney merchandise are simply prohibited. 245. Barney is not a Tyranid. 246. Digimon are not in the 40k universe. 247. Digimon are not affiliated with the Necron. 248. Pokemon are not Digimon. 249. Pokemon are not fun to play with. 250. Thou shalt not steal candy from babies, orcs, Gretchens, or commissars. 251. Thou shalt not play Truth or Dare with sisters. 252. Thou shalt not spin the bottle with sisters. 253. Thou shalt not play Hangman with the Inquisitor or Berserker. 154. Thou shalt ignore strange voices in your head. 255. Thou shalt not put a cork in the Inquisitor's pistol. 256. Thou shalt not hide the Land Raider in a lake. 257. The Land Raider is not a hotel room. 258. Spiking the beer is forbidden. 259. Shotguns are not practice guns. 260. Lasguns don't make cool disco lights for your party. 261. Pixie wings are not jump packs. 262. Thou shalt not trade thine bike for a skateboard. 263. Thou shalt not ignore the chaplain as he recites the tales of Spot the Dog. 264. Darth Vader isn't the son of Abaddon. 265. Thou shalt not use the Sentinel Powerlifter as a babe magnet for the sisters. 266. It makes a funny noise is not an excuse for punching Imperial Guardsmen. 267. He started it is not an excuse for punching Imperial Guardsmen. 268. Thou shalt not get a sister intoxicated for thy own pleasures. 269. Thou shalt not sexually harass the servitors even if they won't notice. 270. Thou shalt not have an ice cream super fantastical day. 271. Thou's name is not Gex. 272. Thou shalt not smoke, inhale, or inject illegal pharmaceuticals into thy holy body, even though your advanced physiological structure could probably withstand the effects. 273. Thou shalt not put ecstasy in the punch when battle sisters arrive for a formal meeting with the chapter's authorities. 274. Thou shalt not practice vampiric tendencies despite your urge to do so. 275. Thou shalt not howl when the chapter master bends over. Full moon out tonight. 276. You shall not comment on being a better shot than the Inquisitor. 277. The chaplain is not too preachy. 278. Gambling for grots is not allowed. 279. Your sergeant is not a puggy bastard. 280. You shall not smack the sister's butt and then wink at her. 281. The lab research Tyranids are not for emergency rations. 282. Thou shalt not use a flamer to cook a whole cow and leave none for the others. 283. Thou shalt not set fly strips outside your tent in a Tyranid war zone. 284. Thou shalt not wear Lord Commander Dante's death mask, or any death masks at all for that matter, on Halloween, any other masquerade parties, or for fun when not in battle. 285. Thou shalt not try to see how much a Death Company Marine can take, physical or psychical. 286. Thou shalt not put tags on the holy shrouds or banners, or write on it in any way at all. 289. Rico's roughnecks are not real. 290. Thou shalt not overcharge thy bike. 291. Thou shalt not use the overcharged engines for drag racing. 292. Thou shalt not have a blood party, as in tea party, with Mephiston during battle. 293. Thou shalt not play no blinking with Mephiston. 294. Thou shalt not give Tycho an orc for his birthday, or any day at all for that matter, or speak him about orcs. 295. Thou shalt not release Moriar from his restrainment or tap in his vital liquids. 296. Thou shalt not ask the sanguinary priest for something to drink. 297. Thou shalt obey the 627 commandments. Isn't it hard counting when being a scout? 298. Thou shalt not use thy jump packs to fry your dinner. 299. Thou shalt not use thy jump packs to get KFC or Macca's. 300. Thou shalt not kill each other because thou art the real sanguinius. 301. Thou shalt not make wounds to resemble the wounds of thou mighty Primarch Sanguinius. The chaplain paint these on your armour. 302. Thou shalt not make bunny ears with thy fingers behind the chaplain while he gives battle orders. 302. Thou shalt not fake death in order to get blood from the sanguinary priests. 303. Thou shalt keep thou armour on, although thou might think thou art invincible, thou do need thy armour. 304. Thou shalt not fall asleep whilst the chaplain is in prayer. 305. Thou shalt not use thy weapons upon thyself, thou still can get hurt. 306. Thou shalt not jump out in front of the rhino to get into the fight whilst still in motion. Wait for orders to disembark. 307. Thou shalt look both ways before crossing the street. 308. Thou shalt not try to steal assaults away from battle brothers. They are allowed some fun too. 309. Thou shalt not make jokes about the Tyranid's mighty one-eyed monster. Arr, pirate matey. 310. Thou shalt not mistake the Harlequin's kiss for some fruity clown prank. 311. Thou shalt not like cigarettes near the hellhounds. 312. Gene stealers are not trying to rob you of your denim trousers. 313. Thou shalt not chase thy grot with a fork. 314. Thou shalt not call the firearms of the Imperial Guard Sega lock-ons. 315. Thou shalt not call the Adeptus Arbites pigs or bacons. 316. Thou shalt not place buckets of water over the Inquisitor's door. 317. Inquisitors are not Nigel No-Friends. 318. Thou shalt not use thy laser sight to blind Imperial Guard. 319. Thou shalt not remove the Imperial Guard's power packs from their lasguns while they are asleep. 320. Thou shalt not play frisbee with a Tau shield drone. 321. Remember, a Primarch is for life, not just for Christmas. 322. Thou shalt not eat toast in your power armor. I'm not going to vacuum the crumbs out of the toes again. 323. Thou shalt not put fridge magnets on thy power armor, even if you have been to Cornwall. 324. Thou shalt not tune into FM rock on your intercom. 325. Thou shalt not put bananas in the commander's rhino's exhaust pipes. 326. Thou shalt not hang pine fresh on Moria, even if he is a bit ripe by now. 327. Scented pine trees hanging off rear vision mirrors in favour of the dice is now prohibited. 328. Thou shalt not offer to clean the sisters' armour whilst they change. 329. Thou shalt not use power weapons or chain weapons to cut your food. 330. Thou shalt not remove the batteries from weapons to put in your RC toys. 331. Thou shalt not swap the salt and pepper. 332. Thou shalt not play I see what you don't see over the intercom during battles. 333. Thou shalt not go out to get cigarettes during prayers. 334. Thou shalt not make remarks about the physical appearance of sisters. 335. Thou shalt not swap your battle brother's gun with a water pistol. 336. Thou shalt not participate in any intoxication, i.e. alcohol contests, with Imperial Guardsmen. 337. Thou shalt not ask a sister if her armour is too small. 338. Thou shalt not ask a sister about her age. 339. No means no. 340. Thou shalt not make cat sounds when sisters argue. 341. Thou shalt not refer to Sister Supreme as Mistress. 342. Thou shalt not refer to Orc Dreadnoughts as garbage bins. 343. Thou shalt not make funny noises during your speech or prayer. 342. Thou shalt not play shooting range with Gretchens. 343. Thou shalt not brag about how many you've killed with a Dark Eldar. 344. Thou shalt not write or put tags on vehicles or armour. 345. Thou shalt not use servitors to catch your paper. 346. Thou shalt not yell catfight when sisters argue. 347. Thou shalt not press the buttons in a demolisher tank. 348. Thou shalt not hum cartoon theme songs when around the towel. 349. Thou shalt not refuse the sisters your chocolate rations, especially during the time of their red rage. 350. Thou shalt never refer to the size of a sister's rear armour. 351. Thou shalt always offer to rub a sister's feet after battle. I need not explain why. 352. Thou shalt always carry thine universal remote control when facing Necrons. 353. Thou shalt never offer to sell your soul to the Dark Eldar for beer money, not even in jest. 354. Thou shalt never ask a demonette for some handiwork, else thou will have to join the sisters. 355. Thou shalt not remind your commander how many times he has been slain by the badly coloured Tyrannid. 356. Thou shalt leave the plasma gun well and truly alone. 357. Thou shalt not play Russian roulette with automatic weapons. It doesn't work. 358. Thou shalt not shave the Space Wolves while they are asleep. 359. Thou shalt not load the dice. 360. Thou shalt not move that extra little inch in movement phase. 361. Thou shalt not fire thy bolter at enemies you can't really see except a leg sticking out of a building. 362. Thou shalt follow thy rulebook. 363. Thou shalt not make up rules. 364. Thou art not fearless. Thou art fearless. Ugh, anyone got a codex? 365. Thou shalt not laugh at the cultist. 366. Thou shalt beware of bird poo when Greater Demon of Tzeentch is around. 367. Thou shalt not use penicillin-tipped bolts in your bolt gun against Nurglings. 368. thou shalt not waste thy 15 minutes free time trying to get laid. 369. Thou shalt beware of possessed 2-litre Coke bottles. 370. Thou shalt not stare at feet during the battle march. 371. Thou shalt not aim at thy commander's back. 372. Thou shalt watch thy footsteps. 373. Beware of the drunken layman Russ. 374. Thou shalt not binge drinks with the Imperial Guard. 375. Thou shalt not challenge a demon prince to a fistfight. 376. Thou art not unexpendable. 377. Thou shalt look before thou leap. 378. Thou shalt not bring your sack-lunch to battle. 379. Thou shalt not use thy bike as a battering ram. 380. Thou shalt beware of potholes and speed bumps. 381. Lord Logan is not Wolfie. 382. The Seraphims do not want to join the Mile High Club. 383. Spiky bits are not meant for hanging laundry on. 384. Ultramarine Scout is not Little Boy Blue. 385. Never refer to the Canoness as Big Mama. 386. Thou shalt not put kick me signs on thy brothers' backs. 387. Thou shalt not nail nurglings to the back of the rhino as fuzzy decorations. 388. Thou shalt not put itching powder in a dreadnought. 389. Thou shalt not wink suggestively at demonettes. 390. Thou shalt not use can openers on orc dreadnoughts. 391. Thou shalt not replace the Commissar's comlink with a plasma grenade for a laugh. 392. Thou shalt refer to armoured companies as agoraphobes. 393. Thou shalt not ask Tet Marines to put mag wheels on your bike. 394. Thou shalt not use a looted Terrafex for Halloween. 395. Thou shalt not sneak into the rock while the Dark Angels are asleep and discover that their secret is that all the high-ranking angels wear dresses. Oops. 396. Thou shalt not invite babes back to the monastery. 397. Thou shalt not spike drinks with Sanguinius's blood. 398. Thou shalt not step on guardsmen and then say thou didn't see them. 399. Thou shalt not refer to Paul Sawyer as the Great Unclean One. 400. Thou shalt not call a Dark Angel Jessica Alba. 401. Thou shalt not give a sister breast implants. 402. Neither shalt thou ask whether those guns are real or not. 403. Thou shalt never say anything about the squats. 404. Thou shalt not overheat a plasma gun for a college prank. 405. Thou shalt not give the dev company caffeine. 406. Thou shalt not insult 1,000 Sun about his manly bits. 407. Thou shalt not taunt a space wolf with a piece of steak. 408. Thou shalt not poop thy power armor. 409. Thou shalt not make mention of the irony that a grot blaster is a lasgun. Only the orcs admit it is crappy. 410. Thou shalt not overclock thine Pentium and use it as a plasma weapon. 411. Thou shalt not intentionally overheat a plasma weapon and give it to an IG. 412. Thou shalt not trip over Tau. 413. Thou shalt not attempt to steal a Tau's weapon to give to the poor guardsman. 414. Thou shalt not moon the Tau in combat. They are good shots. 415. Thou shalt not invoke the wrath of Conyers. If you are foolish enough to do so, a Conyor the size of 2 to 4 Titans shalt descend upon the table and inflict his wrath. 416. Thou shalt not attempt to borrow Tau stealth suits, so that you might spy on the sisters in their quarters. 417. Thou shalt not attempt to rebuild a Necron as a washing machine. 418. Thou shalt not laugh at the poorly painted armies. 419. Thou shalt not play fetch with a Kroot Hound using a guardsman. 420. Thou shalt not go big game fishing for Manta missile destroyers. 421. Thou shalt not try to change the batteries on a scarab. 422. Thou shalt not use the blades of reason to trim thy fingernails. 423. Thou shalt not feed the warp beasts. 424. Thou shalt not pet the Kroot hounds. 425. Thou shalt not ask the sisters whether it's dyed or real. 426. Thou shalt not call old One-Eye surf and turf. 427. Thou shalt not moonlight as a security guard if thine armor is red. 428. Thou shalt not use the hellhound to cook thy rations. 429. Thou shalt not use thy power armor comlink to prank call the Imperial Guard stormtroopers. 430. Thou shalt not sneak up on thy commanding officer and yell, "Blood for the Blood God!" in his ear. 431. Thy bolter is not to be used to shoot cans off walls. 432. Thou shalt not steal the land speeder to pick up sisters. 433. The layman Russ is not a kettle. Do not attempt to use it to make tea or coffee. 334. Thou shalt not attempt to empty your waste paper basket into an orc dreadnought. 435. Thou shalt not refer to the rhino as a clown car, although thou might think it is. 436. When throwing thy holiest of his grenades, always count to 3. Yes, 3, not 1, for it is not the holiest of numbers. Or 2, for the holiness of 2 pales in comparison, but 3. Yes, 3, not 1 or 2, unless thou shalt be proceeding to 3. 437. Thou shalt not use blind grenades to sneak into the sisters' encampment. 438. Thou shalt not mention the name Buffy when near the Blood Angels. 439. Thou shalt not use Necron scarabs as boogie boards. 440. Thou shalt not call Harlequins psychedelic or groovy. 441. Thou shalt never show an army of orcs more than 2 Harlequins at once. 442. Thou shalt never laugh at the laughing god. 443. Thou shalt never play hide-and-seek with librarians or inquisitors. 444. Thou shalt not play tag with gaunts. 445. Thou shalt never tie thy power armor laces together. 446. Thou shalt never say resistance is futile to the Adeptus Mechanicus. 447. Thou shalt never criticize the paperboys in the Adeptus Administratum. 448. Thou shalt not sell chapter property on eBay. 449. Thou shalt not put a cork in thine Battle Brothers waste disposal outlet tube. 450. Thou shalt not entertain the Adeptus Sororitas in your billet. 451. Thou shalt not refer to Imperial Guardsmen as cannon fodder. 452. The Imperial Guard Colonel did not visit a fancy dress shop. 453. The lasgun is not to be used to carve your name into the Land Raiders, Predators, Rhinos, Razorbacks, Layman Russes, Titans armor plating. 454. Thou shalt not lend Imperial Guardsmen your power armor or swap places for a day with Guardsmen. 455. Thou shalt not try to perform brain surgery whilst wearing power armor. 456. Thou shalt not assume that because you can take a bolter hit in the head, the Guardsman over there can too. 457. Thou shalt not use towel shoulder pads as padding in games of cricket. 458. Thou shalt not hide the keys to the battle barge. 459. Thou shalt not call orc dreadnoughts or killer cans R2-D2's big brother. 460. Thou shalt not threaten thy enemy with a plasma enema, and thou shalt not carry out the act. 461. Thou shalt not flirt with the Banshee, they are the enemy. 462. Thou cannot date a Dark Eldar witch, they are the enemy too. 463. Thou shalt not steal the Battle Sisters' makeup. 464. Thou shalt not try on the Battle Sisters' armor to see if it compares to your own. 465. Thou shalt not make fun of warp spiders' guns. 466. Thou shalt not take the Land Raider for a joyride. 467. Thou shalt not perform daredevil stunts in the Rhino, especially if thine brethren are in the back. 468. Thou shalt not hijack the Battle Sisters Immolator, especially if there are any Battle Sisters still on board. 469. Thou shalt not add bits to thine armor to try to pass thyself off as a Battle Sister. 470. Thou shalt not try to dance with a Banshee on the field of battle. 471. Thou shalt not throw sticks for the Space Wolves. 472. Thou shalt not play fetch with the Space Wolf Commander's pet Fenrisian Wolves. 473. Thou shalt not keep a Tyrannid as a pet. 474. Thou shalt not challenge a Carnifex to a game of catch. 475. Thou cannot tie a Wraithlord's laces together. 476. Thou shalt not call a Battle Sister Babe. 477. Thou shalt not be envious of the IG unit, who art friends to the Sister Famulus. 478. Thou shalt not steal the Tau Pulse Rifles, even if they are better than thy bolters. 479. Thou shalt not ask the Battle Sister if they would like to slip into something more comfortable. 480. The Hellhound is not something you put on a leash and take for walkies. 481. Thou shalt not arm wrestle with tactical dreadnoughts. 482. Thou shalt not watch whilst the Battle Sisters change out to their power armor. 483. Orc war bosses are not toys. You cannot try to pull their arms off and jump up and down on them. 484. Thou shalt not relieve thyself behind a tree during battle. 485. Thou shalt not go to thy great emperor and make him perform an illegal operation and be shut down. 486. Thou shalt not wrestle the Battle Sisters and try to pin them down. 487. An iron halo is not a toy. 488. A tank is not a toy. 489. A dreadnought is not a toy. 490. Thou shalt not jump on the back of a dreadnought in battle and see how long you can stay on. 491. Thou shalt not play toy soldiers with the guardsmen. 492. The Space Hulk is not a wrestler. 493. Spiky bits are not cool. 494. Corn is a chaos god, not a food. 495. Thou shalt not use power claws as scissors. 496. Thou shalt not use power armor powerpoints to plug in thy Game Boy. 497. Thou shalt not use Hellion skyballs to impress the sisters. 498. Thou shalt not place a flashing light on top of the Rhino so that it is easier to find in the car park. 499. If showing a Tau how your bolt gun works, thou shalt not give it to him the wrong way round. 500. A Necron is not a Meccano kit. 501. Thou shalt not tell the Inquisitor, say what you want about Chaos, but those Slanesh can party. 502. Thou shalt not blast Flight of the Valkyries when buzzing enemies in your Landspeeder. 503. Thou shalt not trade his most delectable rations for gourmet Eldar tofu. 504. Thou shalt not offer back scratches when issued lightning claws. 505. Yes, is cheating to use jump packs during a basketball game. 506. No, you can't pose for Playgirls, the men of the Adeptus Astartes. 507. Enforcing discipline is not sending the neophytes to procure strong monkish ale. 508. Don't call the Adeptus Mechanicus about warranty information concerning your destroyed Land Raider. 509. Don't shave a bloodthirster in its sleep. It only makes them more angry when it wakes up. 510. Do not deface his most blessed battle barges with the bumper sticker, "We don't break." 511. Thou shalt not compare thy height with that of the rattling snipers. 512. thou shalt not go the way of the navy. 513. Thou shalt not kick the emperor if thou see the kick me sign on him. 514. Thou shalt not try to prove your leet skills on Necrons in the Eldar Webway or on the Martian Central Cogitator mainframe. 514. Thou shalt not throw a bone at a bloodthirster or fleshhounds shouting fetch. 515. Thou shalt not ask the salamanders for a light. 516. Thou shalt not get blood angels to go to anger management classes. 517. Thou shalt not challenge white scars to a street race. 518. Thou shalt not refer to Imperial Guard as gun fodder. 519. 20-foot-high electromagnets should not be used around Necrons. 520. Thou shalt not place the Liber Chaotica in your ex-wife's possession. 521. Reed is completely useless against a Carnifex. 522. Salamanders do not need to go to How to Stop Burning Things classes. 523. Thou shalt not borrow the Librarian's Psychic Hood for the annual Guess Who competition. 524. Thou shalt not pour water on an avatar. 525. Thou shalt not attach a for sale, previously owned by one careful user, to the wreck of a destroyed dreadnought. 526. Thou shalt not feed biocarbonate soda to the Inquisitor's Cyber Eagle. 527. Thou shalt not use a railgun as a seesaw. 528. Thou shalt not comment on Captain Tycho not having his happy face on. 529. Thou shalt not mention the phrase bath time in front of the Space Wolves. 530. Thou shalt never mention under pain of death the stunted race of humanoids that mysteriously disappeared from the universe for unexplained reasons. 531. Thou shalt not consider a detachment to Armageddon as a holiday. 532. Thou shalt not refer to Talam as the Big Beach. 533. Thou shalt not tie an Inquisitor's bootlaces together and then run away giggling. 534. Thou shalt not utilize the highly sophisticated, advanced, and expensive long-range communications array to make prank phone calls to the local bar and ask for a Mr. IP. 535. Thou shalt not take the Emperor out walking. 536. Thou shalt not attempt to be friends with Tyranids. 537. Thou shalt not borrow the Land Raiders to race them, then when they come back wrecked, blame it on chaos. 538. Thou shalt not write Clean Me on a Katachan Chimera. 539. Thou shalt not fry ants with the melter gun. 540. Thou shalt not fill the back of the missile launcher with promethium to see what happens. 541. Thou shalt not paint Beware of Dog on the Wolf Lord's armor. 542. Thou shalt not play Pin the Tail on the Donkey with the Rough Riders' horses. 543. Thou shalt not date demonettes or other followers of Slaanesh, no matter how tempting the concept may be. 544. Thou shalt not blame the chapel heating for falling asleep during prayer. 545. Thou shalt not paint two blue stripes down the middle of a rhino and call it a Viper variant. 546. Tau are not noobs. 547. Thou shalt not refer to assault marines as tooled-up pretty boys. 548. The Ultramarines do have a sense of humor. 549. Thou shalt not use the Land Raider for off-road races. 550. Thou shalt not give manicures to Lightning Claws. 551. Thou shalt not procure Noise Marines weapons for thine garage band. 552. Thou shalt not comment on the temperature around thine salamander's brethren. 552. Thou shalt be punished for speaking the blasphemous "Arr, matey" around thine chapter master with the bionic leg. 553. Thou shalt not offer to pump you up to Imperial Guardsmen. 554. Thou shalt decline all invitations to party with Slaanesh. 555. Thou shalt not salvage spore mines for whoopee cushions. 556. Thou shalt not drag race thine abdominous opponents for bragging rights. 557. Thou shalt not ask, ever wonder if the machine god is a Catan, or thine shall be branded heretic and purged. 558. Pucker up, homos, is not an Adeptus Astartes approved battle cry. 559. Thou shalt not suggest a banshee take voice lessons. 560. Thou shalt not attempt to procure the good stuff from thine apothecary. 561. Thou shalt not suggest thine chapter master is so old his farts blow dust. 562. Thou shalt not resort to nipple crippling when losing a fight girded with a power fist. 563. An honour badge was never granted for basket weaving or serving. To suggest so is sacrilegious, and thou shalt report to the chaplain for suitable penance. 564. Thou shalt not replace thy veteran sergeant's bolt pistol ammo for a flag with bang upon it. 565. Thou shalt not use power swords for letter openers. 566. Thou shalt not challenge Eldar to a bike race. 567. Thou shalt not place thy holy banana into a raven-winged bike exhaust. 568. Thou shalt not use tyrannid rending claws as toothpicks. 569. Thou shalt not use thy plasma cannon's power pack for Christmas lights. 570. Thou shalt not use lightning claws as back scratchers. 571. Thou shalt not use thy tech priest tools to unblock thy holy toilet. 572. Thou shalt not use thy empress throne for personal use. 573. Thou shalt not use the tech marine servo arm to serve drinks. 574. Thou shalt not replace the chaplain's bike with a pedal tricycle. 575. Thou shalt not replace the chaplain's holy relic with a cuddly toy. 576. Thou shalt not use chain fists to clip thy toenails. 577. The fact that Razorbacks have spiked rams at the front does not entitle you to use them as bumper cars. 578. Thou shalt not attempt to fill smoke launchers with silly string. 579. Thou shalt not pester dreadnoughts with, "So what's it like to die then?" 580. Thou shalt not sing "Who Let the Dogs Out" when visiting the Fang. 581. Thou shalt not offer the Emperor any kind of anti-wrinkle products. 582. Thou shalt not do loops while flying a battle barge. 583. No, a jump pack is not a hairdryer. 584. Thou shalt not refer to Mannerus Calgar as Papa Smurf. 585. Thou shalt not call blood angels pretty boys. 586. Thou shalt not say "dead man walking" every time thou see a dreadnought. 587. Croot hounds do not make good company mascots. 588. Space wolf bites are actually worse than their bark. 589. Thou shalt not use rhino dozer blades to help build thy brother-in-law's patio. 590. Remember, Krootoks are to be used as Christmas presents. 591. Thou shalt not make breathing noises and say, "We meet at last, Obi-Wan," when handling power weapons. 592. Remember, a +2 armor save does not make you a Primarch. 593. Thou shalt not refer to Chaplain Lamartes as Ticker Tape Man. 594. Thou shalt not say to an Inquisitor, "Hey, I hear they're bringing out the Malus Codicium in paperback." 595. Thou shalt not whistle "Close Encounters of the Third Kind" every time you see a Tau. 596. Thou shalt not send Legion of the Damned Brethren trick-or-treating. 597. Thou shalt not drag with the chapter's Thunderhawks. 598. Thou shalt not ask an orc for some shrooms. 599. When thou hast taken many casualties, thou shalt flee towards the guns of thy enemy, hoping that their next volley may be more accurate. 600. Thou shalt not refer to the Grey Knights as Catholic fundamentalists. 601. Regardless of any laws regarding demon season, thou shalt not refer to the Grey Knights as poachers. 602. Thou shalt not make comparisons between Night Haunter and Batman. 603. Thou shalt not make jokes about the 604. Thou shalt not refer to the Golden Throne as a royal flush, nor refer to a royal flush in poker as the Golden Throne. 605. Thou shalt not have a thumb war or wearing a power fist. 606. Thou shalt not take dancing lessons from Selesh. 607. Thou shalt not start to say that history is wrong and it was the Emperor who turned to chaos. 608. Thou shalt not say thy Emperor is a false god in front of an Inquisitor. 609. Thou shalt not try to get thy battle sister drunk for a little fun. 610. Thou shalt not become drunk before a battle, so thy accidentally shoots thy brothers. 611. Thou shalt not call interrogator chaplains cross-dressers. 612. Thou shalt not attempt to trip up a titan. 613. Thou shalt not refer to the deceiver as just a big gold court jester. 614. Thou shalt not ask Zinch how to pull a rabbit out of a hat. 615. Thou shalt not tell a brother space marine that they can only move 6 inches at a time. 616. Thou shalt not ask why Eldar wave serpents are just falcons with an extra gun. 617. Thou shalt not confuse the Black Legion with the Black Templars. 618. Thou shalt not refer to Slaanesh as that freaky nymphomaniac guy. 619. Thou shalt not slice 3 toes off each foot of the towel and see how well they walk. 620. Thou shalt not underestimate the power of a vibro cannon, even if it is shoved up a Slaanesh demon prince where the sun don't shine. 621. Thou shalt not refer to the Raven Wing as speed freaks in power armor. 622. Thou shalt not point and laugh at dark angels. 623. Thou shalt not cry, Toro, while within earshot of a blood angel. 634. Thou shalt not throw sticks while in the company of space wolves. 625. Thou shalt not refer to the Ultramarines as Ultra Smurfs. 626. Thou shalt not keep pet rippers. 627. Thou shalt not ever repeat the black and white space marine on the black and white bike joke. Ever. 628. Daring neophytes to sniff flamer fuel is not appropriate training. 629. Scouts are not meat shields with attitude. 630. When an apothecary is administering Narthesium, he is not giving the injured a hit-up. 631. Thou shalt not refer to the first company as tooled-up pretty boys. 632. Thou shalt not drop ammunition for alcohol or other substances. 633. Thou shalt not engage in my Primarch could beat your Primarch arguments with brother Marines. 634. Thou shalt not compare weaponry size with the size of reproductive organs. 635. Never go up to a demonette and ask if it wants to get lucky. 636. Never go up to a plague bearer and tell it how it's looking better. 637. Never go up to a horror and say, hey, you look different today. 638. Never go up to a bloodletter and, well, never go up to a bloodletter. 639. Never go up to a keeper of secrets and look it up and down and tell it with a surprised look on your face, you're supposed to be an avatar of the god of excess? 640. Never go up to a bloodthirster and... never go up to a bloodthirster. 641. Never go up to a great unclean one and offer it a flu shot. 642. Never go up to a Lord of Change and look at it and ask it, you're supposed to be an avatar of the Lord of Magic? 643. Thou shalt not refer to a hot drink as a battle sister, Jagati Khan or Imperial Standard. Tea White Nun, White 1 and White 2, respectively. 644. Thou shalt not chant 13-0 13-0, 13-0 at Abaddon the Despoiler. 645. Thou shalt not ask Khan how his mates are. 646. Thou shalt not send a get-well-soon card to Mortarion. 647. Nor shalt thou give him a hanky. 648. Thou shalt not cheer with joy that certain games designers now only work on Warhammer Fantasy. 649. Thou shalt not buy Fire Warrior for the PC. Ever. 650. Thou shalt never ever share a bed with anyone in the Penal Legion. It doesn't matter if it might be your last night alive. 651. Thou shalt never name one of the Imperial Navy's vessels Titanic, Titanicus, or any variation on that theme. 652. Thou shalt not compare the magical prowess of a Lord of Change with the mystical powers of the Magic 8-Ball. 653. Thou shalt not do commandment number 652 in front of a Lord of Change, as the Magical 8-Ball will surely win.